I thought I was better than this. Dramatic voiceover while stranded in space? I guess when you're dying, the first thing to go is your creativity.
Hey guys, well, season 6 of Rick and Morty basically confirmed every single theory I've had about the show so far, including Rick's origins and the fact that Rick is not Morty's original Rick. But what we might have missed in the very first episode of season 6 is that they answer another question that we've been wondering the entire time while watching the show. And if you weren't paying a lot of attention, you really could have missed it. And what is that? Well, I'll tell you right now, it's... So season 6 of Rick and Morty has finally clarified a lot of things that we've been wondering the entire time we've been watching the show. We finally found out that Rick is not in fact Morty's original Rick, and all the inconsistencies we saw on the show that lined up with that have now been confirmed. In the season premiere of season 6, we finally see Rick returning to his home universe, and there's something very strange going on there. We return to Rick's self-created prison at the first episode of the season. We find that Rick has actually created a time loop so that he can repetitively live his last and worst day that he's experienced in that timeline. Rick gets to experience a day that he lost his wife and daughter over and over again.
They say my mind is held captive in a time loop, trapped in the day of a traumatic event by the agony of a formidable intelligence, but also that my captor forgot about aging, that my body spoils and yearns for death while my soul remains stuck in place, caught like a fly in amber. Right. I used to drink.
Except when Rick did this, he made a crucial flaw because he forgot aging. And all the residents of the town that Rick and Morty live in continue to age despite the fact that the day never actually changes. And this seems like a very silly throwaway bit that happens in Rick's home universe, except when we dig into it just slightly further, we realize that it isn't. And this takes us back to various episodes such as the Vat of Acid episode, or any time we've gone to the Citadel of Rick and Morty. See, in the Vat of Acid episode of Rick and Morty, Rick creates a do-over button that allows Morty, in order to save his place, and then repeat actions in a different way. However, we find out from Rick later that it doesn't actually go back in time. Instead, what it does is it shifts Morty into a time-dilated parallel reality. This time-dilated reality would have happened slightly before those actions, and therefore he can, by going into those realities, basically redo certain events. However, this creates a huge logical problem, because it clarifies that between all the universes in the Rick and Morty multiverse, they're not all occurring at the same time. Just like the many timelines in the MCU, some of them could be many years in the future and many years in the past. And yet this creates a huge problem when we look at the Citadel, because whenever we're in the Citadel, we never see older versions of Morty. Morty is always the same age, regardless of which Rick he belongs to. And Morty himself draws attention to this later on in the season, and I can't help but think that it's done on purpose, where Morty references that they've had so many Thanksgivings, and yet he's still the same age.
Damn, you really came of age this Thanksgiving.
How old are we? We've had a million Thanksgivings!
And it's not until we hear about the time loop that we get in season 6 premiere that actually explains all of this. Because the truth is, that reality, the one in which Rick's wife and daughter died, is not the only reality that is in a time loop. In fact, every single universe in the central finite curve is in a time loop. The only difference is that Rick was slightly less drunk when he did it, and therefore remembered to include aging into the process, which explains why none of the characters in the Rick and Morty universe ever seem to get older. And I mean, the clues from this are peppered all over the series. From various cutscenes and takeaways, we don't typically question why Morty never seems to get older, even in flash forwards, and it really goes to explain why evil Morty was so obsessed with leaving the central finite curve, because evil Morty had figured out the real truth. The fact is that they could never actually change, there could never actually be any change, because Rick had trapped everyone in a time prison. And the only way evil Morty could ever grow up and actually have his own life was to escape this tiny little cosmic trap that Rick had created for the multiverse.
Every version of us has spent every version of all of our lives in one infinite crib built around an infinite fucking baby.
Time loops. How lovely.
So there you have it, guys. The real trick that we haven't noticed until season 6 is that every single person in the Rick and Morty multiverse are trapped in a time loop. But guys, that's just what I'm thinking. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.